drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Doctor on Call. This evening, we, of course, before we get into the program, we hope you had an excellent Easter weekend and all is well. You did not get involved or you did not get into any accidents, no problems, and, everything is in order. Yeah, we thank you for joining us. We say good night to our friends on GBN Television, 7 and 11, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and of course our listeners on K105 FM. It's a pleasure as always. This evening, as always, Dr. Sonia Nixon is with us, and we're talking home safety. Last week we looked at accidents. Quite an interesting discussion we had, and we're basically continuing along the same line. This time, though, we're looking at accidents and hazards that can happen at home that can have some serious impact on your health. Dr. Nixon, good evening and welcome to our program again for yet another beautiful Tuesday evening.
Happy Easter to you and to all of Grenada, the whole season.
Yes,
celebrating the risen Christ.
That's
I hope
right.
everybody came through safely. I hope we had no road accidents. And I hope everybody had a happy, restful weekend, because it was nice to have 4 days back to back for those of us who don't work on Saturday. It was really nice to have 4 days of just not having to leave your house if you didn't want to, except when you, those of us who go to church. But I've had a lot of activities this week.
Yes, indeed.
And got back to your home safely.
Yeah, when I left here on last Thursday night, 10 o'clock, on my way up St. David, there was an accident. Actually, I am hoping, I did not hear, but I'm hoping that no one was injured, but the condition, I saw that car, it was a car and one of those other SUV vehicles, looked like a Honda to me. The car was in a really bad state. I don't know if anyone was injured. I hope not, but so that's the only one I know about. I can speak of. I don't know if there were others, but I'm hoping. And I don't recall seeing anything in the news tonight regarding any serious accidents like that. So I'm happy. I'm happy for that.
So we're thankful.
Yes, indeed. So, Doc, this evening we want to talk, as I said last week, we looked at, road traffic accidents. This evening we're taking it home. And we know there are a lot of things that can happen at home, that can create problems for us. They're referred to as some common home hazards. And of course, we'll look at them, and we'll also look at how we can prevent them. Yeah? And if perchance they do happen, maybe what sort of measures you can take immediately to help minimize whatever impact it can have. So, Doc, there are a number of them. There are a number of common ones that we can probably look at. And the first one, and of course we know accidents tend to happen a lot with children and the elderly, because,
So we're going to look through all of that.
Yeah.
I want to start from when you drop off the bus. I'm serious. You're going home. And a man's house is his castle.
That's right.
And in your castle, you're supposed to live like a king. It doesn't matter how humble, I mean, the poem, amid pleasures and palaces, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home.
That's
Your
right.
home is where you go to feel safe and secure and for respite, to rejuvenate, to recuperate, to feel new again. So you should feel safe when you get there. So there shouldn't be risk of you getting home and your spouse abusing you verbally, or you having to pick a fight with your spouse or your mother or your cousin or anybody. There must be peace. That's part of feeling safe. Feeling like I'm not going to be beaten, or I'm not going to be kicked, or, I'm not going to be abused verbally, I'm not going to be abused sexually or any otherwise. So that's part of the things we have to ensure that exist in a safe home, right? A boy or girl coming from school must get on the bus, must be jovial, must be longing to get home, right? That there's no conflict. And that's one of the things we have to consider. There must be food. That's another form of feeling safe, that you have the proper amount of food to eat, the correct nutritional input. What you're going to eat must be good for you, right? It must be free. It must be safe from people who bring you substances, drugs, and whatever it is, alcohol, all the things that are going to alter your mind, the way you think, and ultimately the way you behave. So all of those things contribute to a safe home. If you're going to go home and the guys are going to come, yeah, you can come and play domino, but there's noise all night and you can't sleep. That's not a safe place to be, right? That you run the risk of somebody fighting or somebody abusing you or somebody abusing you, physically attacking you, being killed in your home. That's sad. Feeling safe means that you also don't live in an environment that's volatile, that they're not home invasions or people going to break into your house while you're in there and rob and stab and kill and shoot you. All of those things are important things. So I think even before we think about the little things like the fire, well, not little things, other things like the fires and stuff, how is our environment, the environment in which we live? Okay? Do you have clean water? Let's talk about a house. So I say, if you have to run on the shortcut when you come out of the bus, or you drive down the little gravel road, or you walk down, however you get home, when you're driving on a properly pitched road, do you feel safe getting there? Are there places where children can, bug their toe? How you say? Bust their toe, fall down, bruise their knee, cut their feet, cut their no, gravel get in their eyes, whatever it is, right? Dog run after them. All of those things are safety things. You want to feel comfortable and there won't be any offense against the person, right? While you're there. So, are we building safe homes structurally? I don't care whether you have I'm not saying everybody's going to be able to build a nice concrete house with picket fence or grill around the house or anything. But is it a safe place? When you get in the house, can you lock your door to feel that sense of security? Can you go to bed in the night and don't get wet? It happens, right? So do you have access to water, clean water for cleaning your house properly, making sure that the structure is maintained, or you have a big wood ant's nest outside of the thing that you simply can't get rid of, one up in the dandelion tree that would not go away and would not leave your property alone. Whether your house is wall or concrete, or I don't know what other kind of houses you do in Grenada, but the truth is your home structurally safe? Or do you expect it to fall down on you if we have a hurricane, or the river to break its bank if we have a lot of rainfall? Have you put your house so close to the river or to some stream, some potential stream even, that should we have a night of rainfall in the morning, we have to try and figure out whether your foundation is there and we have to be looking for you. Those are things that are some of the safety measures we think we tend to forget. When you're building with a house, did somebody tell you don't build a house? It used to be called waterway, right? There's been cases where people went and build their houses. A place in a certain country that it was called New River, and people bought lands who were living about absolutely beautiful, very healthy soil in this wonderful plain called New River. And when the other river next door flowed over people's wonderful houses, big houses that people had migrated, the people went to Windruff in particular, these palatial buildings, and New River came and be an old river, right? Running through there. So you have to think about all of those things. Where am I putting my house down? Okay? Is it safe? Is it a safe place? Right? What am I using to build my house? Not all of us can afford to build fabulous houses with concrete and all the safety measures, although even then, those things must be taken into consideration, right? But sometimes we use board and things that build up that are more detrimental. We might as well sleep outside. So we have to consider those things when we construct in a home. And there's some of the things that people need to consider. And I don't know how our building rules are. I've never built here, but I don't know how building rules are. Do we have to get safety certificates? Maybe we should. That somebody comes and inspects a house before we occupy it to say, yes, this is fit for human occupancy, right? People can go and live inside your stuff, right? Do you have enough space to start with for the amount of people who live in a house, right? Do you put alarms? I remember a few years ago, we were just having a whole lot of house fires, a whole lot of house fires for whatever reason. Maybe because we have not done appropriate electrification of the house. So we run wire in the house, let some seamstress hang up wire in the house and tie it like she tied thread, right? And then next thing you have electrical short circuiting. It happens a lot where people steal electricity. They build a house, they see some electricity from a pole, and they put it up. But it is detrimental because
Mm-hmm.
you have to make sure that your house is appropriately wired, and that when your house is appropriately wired, that the electrician, the electrical inspector comes and say, hey, yay, nay, okay, this can't go. This is likely to happen. So that side is overloaded. Let us do this and balance it out. So electricity can always be there and you will always be safe. When you put your plugs on the wall, especially, do your children have access to pushing their toys in there? Because it's full and they see you pushing plug in there. Little children are going to want to push things in the plugs as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are the wires properly placed to start with? And are the plugs covered and child safety? But we can come to child safety a little after, right? Does the house flood when you have with a water system that you have, or does it not? Do you have water that comes into the house? If it's close by, are you bringing water in so your hygiene can be well? Those are things that keep us safe. If we don't have clean water for washing our hands, clean water for bathing every day, clean water for cleaning our house, we're not living in a healthy and safe environment. So you have to take into consideration all of these things. If you have alarms, like I said, fire alarms are actually necessary because they tell you to get out. Okay? They tell you to get out. You may not be able to save anything, but you can save your life. Or you can wake up and grab your children and run to the house day or night, whenever it is. Do you have a place? You may have a big house. Suppose something happened. Just suppose. Where can you get out? Or you have a house with one door. So if the fire starts by the door, or we have an earthquake and some of the bricks in front fall or whatever, where else can you get off? If your house is built on a hill in particular, you have to ensure that there is a place where your family can exit safely, right? So you have to have it. We talk about keeping our doors locked and closed as we need to. Do you keep it where you put your medicines? I want to ask you, Godfrey, you don't have little children in your house. Where do you put your medications?
Right next to my bed. Right next to
And
me.
a lot of us do that.
That way I don't. That way I don't forget. Huh?
Right. Yeah, but you can leave it on the kitchen counter right next to the coffee. Or in the bathroom right next to the toothpaste that you have elevated. So put it next to your bed, maybe safe for you because you don't have little children. That shouldn't happen when we have small children who don't understand. They see you taking pills, they want one too, right? Some candies come in boxes and the children will think it's candies and they want to indulge. So you have to be very careful, right? And it's best that if we have medications that people take on a regular basis, that these medications are put into a medicine cabinet. Keeping your laundry room locked is very important because sometimes children go into the washing machine or they go into the dryer. We don't have dryers much, but they do go in and look at stuff. The truth is, there are lots of things you have to think about, right? Making sure at first the structure in which you live is important, is safe, but that is important. And then we go beyond that. We look at individual situations that can happen, that can cause us to have challenges with our safety in our homes. A lot of challenges, a lot of problems occur in the extremes of age, because those are where people are most vulnerable, where they're weaker, where the vision is less, where the ability to make decisions for themselves, especially for their safety is less, and physically they just can't really get around by themselves, and they may do things because cognitively they don't have the capacity anymore. So falling.
Mm-hmm.
Children fall a lot, right? Especially little children who are just learning to walk, right? And they're very inquisitive. They're fast. They want to see everything that's happening. What are the safety features you have in your house so that if your child falls, he doesn't injure himself to die? So let's imagine you have a little house you're building, and we're not rich, so we build a little and we add a little piece and we add a little piece until we can get the desired house. Especially as our children, we have more and more children, we tend to have need for greater space. Do you leave wood hanging around with nails? Do you leave wood just, structures that are unfinished so your child can trip, right? Do you leave stuff that's on the floor? Yeah, it's part of the construction, or even just things that are there while because you're living in a house. Are there things that impede our seniors from walking, like stuff you put on the floor, they don't see it, or they trip and they fall and they break their hips? Especially when we leave seniors at home alone in the day. If you leave your grandmother alone in the day, she's going to get hungry at some stage. Yeah, and maybe she can walk to the kitchen by herself. And maybe she can help with the laundry and all the rest. But is it a safe environment for her? Does she have to climb over the basket of laundry that you left in the middle to try and get to what's in the washing machine? Or does she have to climb over something to get to the clothes on the line, right? Are there big stones in the yard? Is the yard level enough for her to go outside? Most people older people, when they fall, tend to sustain fractures. Of course, in women, particularly, especially because the bones become so brittle, right? 80% of the people who fracture the hip actually die. So if 10 people fall and break their hips, 8 of them will die. For other reasons, not related to the fact that they're 80, but the fact that there's a lot of fat in the long bone of the femur and the hip, and that just gets into the bloodstream and causes a blockage and in the lung, and they will die, okay, of a pulmonary embolus. So we have to think about this stuff. You have to make the environment safe for walking around. Are you going to ask your grandmother, who's forgetful, to warm up her lunch on the stove? Or are you going to warm it up and keep it in a container, in a soft pack that's insulated? There are ways to do it. Or you're going to ask the neighbor next door to ensure that she's able to do it. Mm-hmm. When our children are left home in the holidays, sometimes we have to do this because necessity calls. Do we allow them to climb to get the snacks, or do we put the snacks down? To prepare their food, are we going to allow them to light the fire? You're going to ask the neighbor, or you're going to do the same thing you did for your grandmother, right? Are you going to allow them to climb so they can fall and break their arms, and they don't know how to find you, and they don't know how to find anybody? Are we leaving little children alone at home who can run around and injure themselves, right? So we have to consider that. Falls are very often, especially, children run up and down, they bruise their knee, they break their hand, they climb up on mango tree to pick one mango. 10 of them want to get this one mango on the tree. That's just life. But we have to instruct the children as well how to prevent these things from happening. Okay? So falls is a very, very important part. Mm-hmm. A lot of our children suffer falls and break hands and break foot and all the rest of it. And like I said, in the case of our seniors, you can also fall and hit your head. Apart from fracturing your hip or fracturing your wrist, in the case of older women, fracturing whatever bone it is. But you may also fall on something that can puncture your chest or whatever it is, and cause immediate death. So we have to ensure that you don't have things that obstruct and all the rest, right? Because people may fall. The other thing is there ways to in the case of the elderly, have rails in the house. In the bathroom in particular, a lot of seniors fall. And seniors don't need to have no bathtub, okay? Unless you're inside sitting down with them or holding on to them. A walk-in shower with a seat is good enough. So almost at level, they sit on the chair, they turn on the pipe, they wash themselves, and they can step out like they're on the ground, like they're on the same level as the level. Make sure that the tiles you have are not slippery tiles in your house. Having tiles is quite convenient. It keeps your house cooler. It keeps the house easier to clean and all the rest of it. But please make sure they're not slippery. And if you choose tiles that are not as costly, you may find that it might cost you in the end, because the cheaper the tiles, the more likely they are to not have the non-slip capacity. So those are some of the stuff falling. And even you can fall. Not just the elderly, we people in ordinary working age people, can also experience falls. And we know if you fall, you can't go to work. If you fracture your hand or your foot, you can't go to work. And there's the secondary impact on your family because the income changes. So that's in relation to falls. I'm sure there are other things that you can all think about.
Mm-hmm. Let me just before we move ahead, Doc, and you mentioned tiles, also wet floors with the tiles and so, because some tiles are generally slippery, but areas like your kitchen and bathroom, it's important to ensure that they dry because wet flows can cause serious injuries, serious falls,
Yes,
serious falls. Also, there are some people who have the bunk beds in their home, and of course
children.
sometimes children climb, and so these are little things that you can pay attention. Also, there are people who have like wooden steps to go into the houses because of course, as you said, not everybody can afford a concrete
Mhm.
structure, but you may have a wooden step. Ensure that they are well done, they are well made, so that
Mhm.
you don't have rotten areas to the sides and you step on it and then
Yes, especially having rotten stairs
yeah.
can be much of a challenge to people, and a lot of us don't understand how important it is to have to have to keep to check our stairs. You know, it is you might as well buy some green heart to make your steps, and cost a little money and save the money that you lose from work or somebody breaking a foot or even losing a limb, because that too can happen if you fall and fracture a limb.
Yeah, yeah. Also, well, I think you did mention proper staircases and so, but also people with pets. You have your little pets and they like to run between your legs and all of these things. As simple as it may appear, and maybe you love your pet and they run around and you think it's all fun, but without even noticing, you can slip on a pet, fall, and you probably might not only damage yourself, but what if you fall on your pet? You might lose your pet as well. So there are a lot of little things that we need to pay
I remember a
attention to.
situation where I lived in this house that had very light colored tiles, and I get this little dog. The dog was like 6 inches long. I kid you not. And the next morning I go to work, and the lady who came to help came in, but the dog was so small. It looked just like the tile. So I took this tool. The tool is thing to make can with,
Uh huh.
right? Make ruffles and stuff with. And I had this like 2 yards of tulle. I kid you not. I cut a piece of tulle and tie him so all it could, and he looked like a big red bow. It was red tulle, right? And then I got home, the even lady said, Dr. Nixon, it's a good thing you tied that little dog. It's a good thing you tied the little dog. Because every time she turned on, she see this red thing moving. She can't see the
But
dog because he looks like the tie,
yeah, you
right?
see, and that's it.
Yeah, and she may have injured him because he was really small. He was 6 weeks old and really small.
Hmm.
But the other thing is that she may have injured herself, like you say.
Exactly.
You are constantly underfoot. And as much as we love our animals, we have to look for them being underfoot all the time. And
Yeah.
that's a very good point. I'm glad you raised that.
We have to pay attention. Also, you mentioned earlier about our home being safe and everything. Now there are a lot of people. Sometimes you build your houses, and the lights in your house. So depending on the type of roof you have, you put these lights, your bulbs way up there, and at some point you may have to change your bulbs, and then you have to get a ladder to get up there. And of course, if you're climbing a ladder, there is a risk of falling. So
Falling.
it might be a good idea when you're building your house to have your lights where you can actually, you don't have to climb, or if you do have to, not too high, so that you sort of minimize, the risk of falling and things like that.
Or ask someone who has better skills
Hmm.
at climbing a ladder.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you have the bulbs in the, I don't know what you call it, recessed lights,
Yeah. Hmm.
recessed lighting. And somebody with a V ladder can climb, and one of those expandable ladders can climb up and do it.
Yeah.
But
So
really, we shouldn't take risks
so
to enjoy.
definitely, yeah. These are just some little, you know.
So while we're talking about ladders, I think we have to consider, because sometimes, I know it's dry season now, right? But
Yes.
when we used to have, you remember we used to have the rabbit ears, not the rabbit ears, the antennas on the roof?
Yes. 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 For your
No, no,
television.
no, go the other way. No, 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 no. Yes, do that. Oh, you move it. So somebody's always climbing on the roof. That's a very risky thing. And
It
it was
is.
done by children, because we want to see TV during the day, right? Or you want to see something at night. There were no other shows, but we want to see something, and you keep turning. We don't have it. We've been flying kites, and this is going to join together. We've been flying a lot of kites. A lot of people are upset that there are parts in which you can't fly. It's just dangerous. And more so, it's dangerous because there are lots of high tension wires.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost got the conniptions on Sunday because I kind of saw somebody moving down in front on a structure we have closer to the road. And I said, who is that? And he said it was, and I said, what you doing there? Because he has gone like half a stairway to go fly his kite, and it might be attractive to him. And I said, boy, do you see how many high tension? I'm talking about less than like 60 feet. There are all these high tension wires.
Yeah.
He just wanted to mount his kite. And I could understand. And I said to him, no, you're going to get excited and fall off the way you're standing to start with. And two, there are too many electrical wires. And I felt badly, but I also realized that, no, you're very unsafe up there. I said to him, you have to come down. And I saw him later and explained to him, and he says, okay. And then he was flying kites on Sunday. We had a flight kind with an open space, not in flight path and all the rest. And he thoroughly enjoyed himself.
Yeah.
And he won the ugliest kite. So
yeah. So you know, folks, these are one last thing. You know, look, we have to consider because accidents they can in a short space of time it can just change our lives completely. You know, there are a lot of people, of course, when you're building your houses, some people like this long steps, a lot of steps because they build their houses high. We have to consider, folks, that look,
you can get
you probably built your house when you was 30,
young.
35, and you're young, and you can run up and down these steps, but believe me, you're not going to remain 35. And the chances are that, you know, as you grow older, that could become a challenge. So, you know, we're just saying, look, there are a lot of things that you need to consider. You know, yes, and all of that can minimize, you know, the risk of accidents, especially falls. You know, as you grow older, as we grow older, you know, we are not as active as we used to be. So, and of course, accidents among young children and the elderly are more common, and they can result in more harm. Yeah. So, you know,
more serious outcomes, yes.
Yes, indeed. So we're moving on, Doc, and another thing, and of course they all tied in fires and getting burned at home.
So don't move from falls yet, because one of the things our children do a lot when they're on vacation is climb.
Yeah.
So there are probably a few cashew trees around, right? French cashew. And 10 of us would climb for that one cashew. I can tell you from when I was growing up, right? All of us climb to get it, or the one guava we see on the branch that we don't realize that there's no real branch left there. And reminding our children not to climb things like plum trees that break, and breadfruit trees that break, and golden apple trees that break. I've known many people who have fallen off these trees and have died.
Yep.
Because the trees have attractive fruits. Some mango trees have rotten branches because they're so old. But certainly plum, red and Chinese plum and Jamaica plum. Certainly golden apple, most certainly that will fall and break. And breadfruit, they fall and they break. Those trees are very hollow, and we tend to climb them. Better you get a cocoa knife or bamboo or a bamboo that cherry pick at the end, and pick your fruit. I know it's nice. Sometimes we used to fling stone, but I don't know if children could say fling stone.
Well, that's that. While you were talking about climbing, I was thinking about, because I remember, I mean, we would do that as young fellas. You would throw stones, and you know, you throw a stone, it can ricochet from a branch, and it can come back at you. I remember very, very vividly. I was throwing a stone after, as you said, a kushu. You know, that's how we call it. We had the red and the yellow. The cashew with the nut. It's cashew, folks, you know. But as young children, you know, you make it easy for you, a cashew. So you would throw your stones, and I recall, I threw a stone, fairly good sized stone. But the thing is, it was not very high. But what I didn't want that cashew to fall on the ground and get smashed. I wanted to catch it. And so when I threw the stone, I went underneath to catch the cashew, and guess what? The stone came right back down and fell on my head. I didn't get a bus head. It didn't do me anything, but you know, it could have. So you know, we're just saying that these are things that you need to pay attention to, because you never know what may happen. Circumstances are different. And
remember, as I'm reminded by someone now, that we really just don't have the facilities to take care of serious injury. Okay? The surgery and the neurosurgeon intervention and all the things that cost us a lot of money. While we want people to have fun, you have to have fun in a very cautious way. You must be aware of what the hazards are. So
definitely so. So it's important. And even around the yard, you have to ensure that it's safe. Sometimes you do things, you throw things around, you step on a nail. That can result in tetanus. And so there are a lot of little things. So the whole idea here is to be careful and pay attention to your surroundings. Be alert to avoid accidents, or even if you can't, but at least when it happens, you minimize the effect so that you don't get seriously hurt.
All right, so let's talk about fires. Yeah?
Yes,
Can we? Or you want to take a break? Fires.
Let's go to fires. We'll take a break after.
Yes. So I think for me, fires are this is me personally. I think fires are the most painful thing that can happen to anyone.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Whether you get burned and die, whether you have a fire that damages your veranda, your car, your house, anything that belongs to you, your church, whatever it is. The truth is that most fires are avoidable. Okay? I don't know how many incidents of arson I've heard about in Grenada, arson where somebody actually catches your property on fire. It probably does happen, but fires occur. So if we start with the older group, especially people who live alone, who live in old houses by themselves, who don't have electricity, so who light lamp and candle in the night to sleep, and who already can't see so well, I might have to get up to use the bathroom in the night. They're at risk. And we've seen a lot of old people die because they fall asleep, probably listen to the radio or even watching TV. They fall asleep but they have a candle light, a lamp lighting. And they fall asleep or they walk and they bungs out the lamp of the candle. And the house catches a fire. They can't help themselves and they die in the fire. They may die because of smoke inhalation and get burned after, but a lot of people die. We've seen where your mothers leave their children and go and party. And they leave candle lighting in the house. And the children are curious. Mommy's gone. All right, what now can I do? They're looking for things to occupy themselves, right? Or the big one trying to take the little one in the bedroom and take up a candle and it falls on the sheet and the laundry that's on the floor, whatever it is. Or he trips because we have things in places that they shouldn't be, right? And you live in a little board house. But a lot of the stuff, the consumer items that we buy are made from petroleum-like derivatives. So everything is polyester, right? And polyester catches a fire quickly. A cotton kill the wig, kill the curtain, kill the sheet, whatever it is, whatever it is, those products catch a fire and they go, it's like a shingle roof catches a fire. But there's so much fuel. It is a responsibility, though, of the people who control trade and the people who control the bureau to really look at the things that we have that have been imported, because we don't manufacture any of those things, right? That are so highly flammable, that catch a fire so very easily, right? And fires that often we can't contain. Older houses that have had several layers of paint are at greater risk. So a little thing happened and the house goes up. We spoke earlier too about having checking your electricity, make sure you have proper wiring. And when a house gets old, sometimes you need to rewire, because we live in the tropics. It's hot, it's damp, and it's salty, especially if it's close to the air. Things are going to corrode. Even the plastic that covers the wires are going to get hard and brittle and dry and create sparks between the wires and cause the house to burn. And not just your wooden house. Your concrete house can also burn.
Yep.
Okay? So be very careful. We hear that happens. We know that there's situations where nature causes it. Nature hits the lamppost and the what do you call the big thing on the big drum on the post? What I mean,
The
right?
transformer?
The transformers on the post, and it makes a flame, right? But that white flame is very, very, very high temperature. When it start pitch, I know it's dry season and we have all kind of leaf and all kind of stuff. I know it's dry and windy season. Um, what you call it? Leaves fly all over the place. A lady was cleaning her yard. Well, she was attending one of my friends. They had this fabulous house in a nice area with shingle roof, right? Shingle roof is dried wood. It's the middle of summer. It's very windy, and there are all these mango leaves. And this lady decides she's going to sweep her mango leaves and rake them, and then she decided to burn them. And she did start a fire, and one or two leaves got away and dropped on the roof. I kid you not, in half hour there was no house. In a very upscale area with otherwise properly built structures, that shingle roof went like a shingle roof on fire. It just went half hour. By the time the fire truck got there 10 minutes away, there was no house left. All her property was damaged. So we have to understand that fires can become out of control very easily. So we have to make sure that we have safe set. There are people who still use coal pots and fireside. You have to be cautious. You have to be cautious that we cook in oil down and so on. Make sure that your clothes don't catch a fire. Make sure you don't trip over if you're too drunk and fall in the fire. So those are the things, and suffer burns. Again, we don't have a burns unit. So if you get burned, you're in trouble. If you have more than a certain percentage burns, especially children have 60%, 80% burns, they are going to pass because we don't have a burns unit. Unless you could airlift that person, send them to a specialized unit to take care of them. We don't want those kind of tragedies occurring in our families. All right? Again, your family needs to know, where do we go if there's a fire, right? How do we alert each other if a fire occurs? So, fires. I don't want to talk about school and stuff. I'm just talking about at home. Make sure your gas stoves are properly serviced. And if you had the gas tank that you turn on and off, don't allow your children to play with it, because sometimes a child will come and just keep turning the clip on and off, leaves it on, and you don't realize you light the fire, or they turn the knobs on the stove, light the fire, blow, there's an explosion, and people are dead or severely injured, right? Don't allow your children to play with matches, right? There's no need for your children to use matches. There's absolutely no need for your children to use matches because of the potential for causing fires in your house.
Now, in addition to that, Doc, in fact, one person was just going back a bit, and I want to just include that point. Someone is saying on our Facebook page, another dangerous practice is running out of the bathroom to answer the phone, which can result in falls that can result in broken limbs. So you're in the bathroom, you're bathing, the phone rings. Well, you can always return the call. So that is a very, very, very important point that person made.
Because you don't need to answer a phone if you're in the bathroom. There's nobody who's such emergency service on the face of the earth that have to get up and be the only one with the information to save somebody's life, right? You can answer the phone after.
Yeah.
And it's not just falling and breaking a limb. The fact that you can slide forward and break your head, or break your back, or break your neck.
You can break everything.
You can break anything.
Anything. But yeah, so just going back with the fires. Now a lot of times when we cooking or we baking, you have your food on the fire and you decide, you know what, let me take a little let me relax a little bit while the food is cooking, or the cake or the bread is finishing.
As
they say, let the bread soak a little bit in the oven. You're familiar with that. And you taking a 5 and you kind of jump up from your rest only to realize that your kitchen is on fire. You fell asleep. So when you're cooking, stay with your food, because that can result in house fires. That is something that we need to pay attention to.
So there's another thing about going out. So there's a woman who says that whenever they're going on trip, she and her family, you have lights to do everything, right? She actually takes a picture of her stove with the burners there to make sure that no light, no stove, no burner is left on. Right?
Right.
It's a habit.
So she can check it. Right. Yes.
But you always check back and make sure she didn't leave the burners on. So that's a very thing. We don't live where it's cold, so we don't have challenges with our heaters getting clogged up, our heating system, and having fires and explosions in our houses, as happened to a lot of people, right? So that's one of the things. The other thing is that remember that we're still very hilly. In order to protect ourselves, we're still very hilly. And for the fire truck to get to your house, it might just never happen. Especially if your house lives across one little rickety bridge that only footpath or a car can go across. So remember, we have to be careful. And again, like I said, we don't have proper burns units or place to, but just this placement alone, it causes the families. When your house burns, breaking up your families, going to live in different places, having to depend on people to give you food and whatever charitable support they can afford, right? You lose all your documents, you lose everything, all your pictures, your wedding pictures. You might lose nice gifts that people have given you that mean, or family heirlooms that mean a lot to you. So we can't be too safe, okay? When we're thinking of how we preventing fires in our house. Again, we talk about what you build your house with. If you build your house with flammable board, there's always likelihood of if something happens, you can think. When you're buying things to light, just buy good matches, because sometimes you have to flash and you forget that you leave the gas going, and it happens, right? If trying to get the matches wet, make sure the matches are kept lit. Make sure the matches are kept dry so that you can light, you turn the stove and you put it on.
Yep. Also, you mentioned that about the lady who always takes a picture of a stove. A lot of times, sometimes we going out and you rush to iron a pants, a jersey, a top, and in the rush you think and you just left the iron there. You went to put on your clothes and then you left. The iron is on flat on the ironing board, and of course, we know what that can result in: fire. So we have to be attentive. We have to be attentive.
And these are skills. These are skills that have to be shared among families. It mustn't just be mommy responsible or granny responsible, whoever the head of the household or the biggest child. Family must understand there are rules, because a lot of us do not set up rules. I don't mean rules to dominate, but rules of coexistence, disaster preparedness rules, so that we know that we can prevent disasters from happening. And when it does, we can sound an alarm and everybody can be out of the facility safely. Remember, if you live upstairs and you have a disabled person, it becomes a major challenge. If you have an upstairs space, or your grandmother might be in the room upstairs, she might be a bit disabled. If a fire breaks out downstairs, it is tragic. So think severely. Say about how can I keep my family safe? Is it that I have to take that study and make it into a bedroom for grandma, or for the person who is disabled in any way? But make sure that your family has a plan to be able to get out of the house should any disaster occur, even if it's a hurricane,
yes, indeed. So, Doc, let's take a short break now. When we come back, we would continue our discussion. So with us, folks, we'll be back with you in just a moment.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Do you have have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joints and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
Sisson's WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
What's up, Grenada? I can't wait to see you on April 15th for the Reggae Fest, the big show at the Grenada National Stadium, featuring some of your favorite reggae artists. This feels like a homecoming. I can't wait to see you, Grenada. What if I love? See you there. Ace.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Speyside Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Speyside Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. We operate at Grenville and the Carnage. We provide the widest range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, x-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today at 444-7679 or 440-1500 or visit any of our locations. Speyside Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Dr. On Call, and we are looking at home safety this evening. Of course, we've already chatted a bit about, falls, and of course, we just completed before the break, fires and getting burned and things like that. And of course, there are quite a number of other hazards that can occur at home. But just before we go, I mentioned before the break about the irons and so that we use for ironing our clothes. Also, ladies, I know you're curling pins and things like that. Sometimes, and I see Doc, she has a really nice hair. Do I have a feeling that she used a curling iron earlier this evening? Doc, I hope you've unplugged it and all is well. Yes?
I turn off the plug on the wall.
Turn off the plug on the wall. Wonderful. But folks, these things they may seem a little simple, but look, we really don't understand the importance of these things until something actually happens. So it is important that we avoid, any of these things from happening. So we should take the necessary measures and protect ourselves and prevent things from happening, because if they do, we may not be in a position to stop it. And while we're in that, it might be a good idea to invest in a fire extinguisher. Maybe initially you might find when you have to go and buy it, boy, this thing expensive. But think about it. which is more expensive, the cost of a fire extinguisher or the cost of having to rebuild your home? So, these are little things that we should pay attention to. So, Doc, anything else you want to speak on fires before we move on to...
No, I just want to go one step back, and the whole thing of loose stuff on our floors, like carpets and rugs. They're nice and decorative, but you have to make sure that they're stable and they don't slide around the place. Front of your bed, in the living room, you can trip, right? You have to be very cautious, especially for our seniors. Not to mention that half of the time in this weather, our rugs have all kind of dust and foolishness that can cause us to get sick.
All right, wonderful. And very quickly, Doc, drowning. And of course, well, not many of us in Grenada have swimming pools, but we do have... Yes, we do have tubs, in our bathroom. And as it relates to children, a child can drown in a bucket of water. It can happen,
in a cup of water.
It has happened before. All right.
So drowning means that water gets into your lungs and prevents, and you die because of lack of exchange of water. So you don't have to have a big swimming pool to drown. Okay, that's why they say you can drown in a cup of water. Now, I think there's one great initiative, the whole Learn to Swim Grenada, which is on this week, incidentally, where we could all go and learn to swim free of cost. I think it's one of the greatest skills we can develop, right? Mm-hmm. Learning to swim. If you walk for 3 miles and you don't even walk for 3 miles. I guess the greatest distance you have to go to get to the sea when you live in Grenada is probably half hour, right? There's always sea somewhere. All right, so if you walk in a straight line, you can get to the sea. If you can swim, the risk of drowning in large bodies of water decreases.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, however, there are times when you don't swim. Even if you can swim, you can't go and drink and swim and eat your belly full and swim. You can't go when they have... when the tide goes out obliquely, I don't know what it's called, right? You can't go when the sea is rough. Guess what? We're not looking for heroes here, right? We don't need any swimming heroes unless they're winning medals at character games and coming back home, right? We need to make sure that we all can swim, but there are moments you don't have to approach nature, right? I know that males in general like to take chances, and I've seen some young boys die, right? By drowning because they take chances. Rushing water, rainfall, and they jump in the canal. They know there's a drain there. Yes, there's a drain when it's dry. When rainfall, water has no conscience. Okay? Mm-hmm. Water has no conscience. It doesn't stop to look back for anybody and to take everybody who will partake of its movements. All right? But learning to swim is very important. On the other hand, parents, you have to make sure your children are safe in the presence of large bodies of water.
That's right.
Let's say, for example, I'm going to start outside of the swimming pool or going to the beach. You can't just let the children walk up and down. A patient came to me one morning. She says she's so stressed because it was in the middle of summer and people go to this beach that's relatively shallow. And her son must have been like 10. And he's standing in the water and he kicked something under the water. It's a little child, just over a year old. Granted, the child lived, luckily because it was a sea and because the concentration of the seawater is kind of similar to what's in our bodies. Mm-hmm. So the child didn't die as quickly or didn't have full-fledged damage, like brain damage, as you would get in fresh water. But hear me. This is 6 o'clock in the evening. Why are you bringing your child on the beach and leaving your child alone? Hold on to your child. Tie a ribbon onto your child. Tie whatever you need to. Okay? Do 3-legged with the child. Whatever you're going to do, keep your children close to you. Children have a habit of taking off like bullets. You look at it, just don't see them because they're excited. Going to the beach is something really intriguing. Seeing a swimming pool is even more intriguing. Here's this water in this big thing. I have one like that at home, except that is little, perhaps, and that's the end of the child. So we need to teach our children to swim. And we see in videos where children learn to swim from early. Teach your children to swim. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great skill for them to have and a lifesaver. leaving your children alone in the bathroom is not good. Right? Leaving them alone in the water is not good. And sometimes we leave multiple children in the water. And you might think you see 4 heads and it's really 3. And the other, those 3 are so busy playing with some toys or making bubbles that they don't recognize that the smallest one or one of them has gone under the water and has not come back up. Right? So supervise your children when you put them into any water. It's going to be hotter soon. You have a little outside pool, you know, little plastic pool that you put children in. Sit down and watch them. Be there. Be there. Or you might as well, if you want, don't waste the water. But, you know, some people put on a sprinkler if you have your own water in some storage tank. But the bottom line is that we have to watch our children so
Very
that they
important.
don't drown.
Very, very,
Right?
very
Drowning
important.
happens, and it happens a lot. I was looking at, they say, up to 2,000 children in the U.S. die in the holidays. A lot of them are drownings. So let's make sure that we can prevent our children from being injured, right? Because of the exposure to bodies of water that can cause some challenges to the respiratory and eventually to the working of their brains.
Well, you know, you mentioned about the U.S. In fact, the CDC says that drowning is the number 2 cause of death among children between ages 1 to 4.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So you know, we have to pay attention. So
let's
yes.
go on to medications with a little more intensity. We talked about having a cabinet, but you really need to store medications way above the reach of everybody. Medications be properly labeled. Do not ask me for one of my sugar pills, because I'm not supposed to do that. What I'm taking may not be what your doctor's giving you. There are a million sugar pills. There are a million of everything. Don't share medications, because that in itself is dangerous. Because a person who may give a pill with all good intentions may have already shown allergies, right, to that pill, and it could be the cause of death. But especially for our children, please make sure that you put your pills away safely, right? Safely and securely. If you can lock the cabinet where you put it, even better. We know that sometimes our children have depression and they find medications that adults are taking in order to attempt to harm themselves. But please make sure, do not take a medication in the presence of your children, because they think that they should do that too. That's what they learn. Okay? So medications must be safely stored. If you have you shouldn't have medications after giving a dose. You know, short-term medications like antibiotics and stuff. You get rid of them. Well, you should have taken all out. But should you not take all of them, then you throw away the rest. You know, dispose of it appropriately.
Indeed.
Right? And while we say that, I'm going to segue into other substances that are toxic, that are not that are poisonous, not necessarily medications that are prescribed, right? But things like alcohol that children will take and drink because they see you drinking. It's advised that we should not give children anything in a bottle, like a soda bottle or stuff, right? That even when we are consuming it, we should put it into a glass. So your child learns by practice that whatever he drinks must come from a glass that somebody pours out. Okay? Bleach. Sometimes take a little bleach and put it in a soda bottle under the kitchen sink, on the corner of the stove, on top. You understand? Your house have beams in the wooden houses. We just put it on there, and the child will go and drink it because it looks like the bottle that you drink your sodas out of, your soft drinks out of, or your beer, or whatever you drink out of it. Make sure that our children don't have that kind of access. Other caustic substances, things that we use for cleaning and stuff, make sure that children don't have access to them. Things, rat poison, and all of those things that we tend not to hide away properly. Those things will kill our children. All right? So make sure when you have those things, they are hidden when the child is not around and out of the child's reach. So they don't have any intrigue and go looking for it, and they don't know where it is. All right? And if we teach our children to eat only out of a plate or a cup of stuff, the likelihood of them taking things and eating it because it looks nice might and becoming intoxicated or poisoned is decreased. So we have to make sure that we put away these poisons. Should you have your child have a poison, consume anything, take the child with the bottle of what they think he may have drank and take him to the hospital immediately. So at least the doctor knows. Well, he drinks something in a bottle. Lord, I don't even know what it is. At least the doctor might be able to smell and say, oh, this smells like bleach, or
Right.
this smells like caustic, whatever it is, you know? So please take whatever the child may have consumed if you're concerned with you when you're taking the child to the emergency room.
Right. Yes, indeed. So I wanted to move on because time is going by quickly. And this one is a very important, very, very important, choking and suffocating.
Oh boy. So choking is getting a foreign object lodged into your airway. Suffocating means that that foreign object or whatever it is that obstructs your airway can end up even more rapidly in death. So I want to start with some of the most tragic things I've heard. Suffocation. Children fall asleep on clothing. You know, you have a bundle of clothes and it's nice when you have a bundle of clean laundry, it smells nice, but a child falls asleep face down. He suffocates and dies, right? Or people, I personally know 2 people who have died, who have been very close to me, who have had epilepsy, had seizures, fell into a bundle of laundry they were folding and died. All right? The mechanism for stopping choking, for being able to dislodge an object into your airways, you know, the back of the throat, into the trachea and stuff, is relatively simple. They have a series, and I think everybody should learn first aid. It's called a Heimlich maneuver, and it's something we should learn. Maybe next time we should have a video of how you do this Heimlich maneuver. Everybody needs to learn first aid in this country because we all out on a boat, we go to party, we go to fete, we do all kind of stuff. I saw a video last night that I saw for about the second time of a police officer who arrested a young man. And the police officer may be chewing gum, because that's the only thing I can imagine, because it's way out and wherever. Arrested a young man, I don't know why. And the police officer started choking right after that. And the young man, who was the culprit for whatever crime he may have committed, actually saved that police officer from drowning. You can see it on the dash cam of the police officer. It's in the US, right? The young man knew the Heimlich maneuver and saved the policeman's lives. And I think we can all do it. It's simple. Or teachers should all know it, because children eating and talking and run up and down and playing. It happens in your home. It happens everywhere. It happens when you go to carnival. It happens when you go to football. Wherever, right? You can have these incidents. And we have to make sure that people know how to do a Heimlich maneuver, how to remove an object from a child who's choking. Don't push your finger and then push and try and dig it out unless you can see it and pull it full out. You know? First aid is very important that we all learn. Okay? So, and of course, you still need to take the person to the hospital after. The other thing is children putting foreign bodies into their nose. So you can't leave seeds and you know, the beads that you put in the hair, or just toys that are used for assembling stuff, because children will push things into their nose, right? Look for a child whose nose is runny. Look for a child who has a bad smelling snot, because you might have had a thing there in their nose for a long time, right? They might have a bead up in their nose for several days before you realize what's going on. See them breathing through their mouth, you think it's a little cold. When you look, there's a stuff. Don't try to take it out. Go to the ER where the doctor has the proper equipment and everything to be able to take care of it for you. All right? Fruits that we eat can also, children here can have choking. Plum seed, damson seed, those kind of stuff. You ask to cut off your fruits very small for children. Don't give them a whole grape, for example. Foreign, grape from foreign. Make sure you cut it off, or if you crush it, right? Cut it up in very small pieces for the child to enjoy. Or just put it in a blender and make a blended drink for the child. Yeah, it's nice for them to have fruits. If you're going to cut up fruits, you have to cut up in small pieces so they don't choke on it. And you might put the child to eat without supervision, because he can feed himself. So you have to make sure that you can cut it in a way that there's a very little likelihood of choking, especially for children who don't have teeth and who can't chew properly.
Yeah. What about Doc? Carbonated drinks.
carbonated drinks.
Yeah.
Well, that can fizz and go up into children's nostrils and stuff
Mm-hmm.
and cause suffocation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't breathe in and swallow at the same time, okay? So you can get air into your lungs. And while somebody may not die, right, they can have severe challenges to their lungs as a result of these fizzy drinks getting into the airways. Can cause bruising and all the rest of it. So you have to be very careful. And then our children are not supposed to drink sugar-sweetened fizzy beverages anyway.
Right.
Am I right?
Well, not. They should not. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
What about things like plastic bags and so, especially with children? Children can, they do funny things.
Years ago, as a teenager, I saw on a plastic, this article may cause suffocation, right? Do not allow children. And I thought whoever was selling this pillow was really nice and kind, but just because we're stupid. Anyway, why would you give a child a plastic bag to play or put it over their heads and they're playing hide and seek with their friends? We have to be very cautious because there is no, an intact, a normal good plastic bag doesn't have any holes. There's no way for oxygen to pass. A baby, for example, might put it over his head accidentally. And the other thing that can cause that kind of suffocation or as well is having too much linen in the baby's bed. We have a whole lot of stuff on the bed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that can cause the baby to suffocate. They claim that some of the children who have the babies who die in bed often die in their parents' bed or in a bed where there's just too much linen, right? And the child might put it over his face and suffocate. So you have to be very cautious. And even some of us just sleep with too much stuff in this hot Caribbean. But there are places where it's necessary to have a lot of bed linen to keep warm at night. But still be very cautious. Check on your children in the night if you have to cover them to sleep, as there are some cold places. But check on them. And there are other ways of keeping a child warm, like putting on a monkey suit on him or a rabbit suit, whatever you call it, right? And you can cover the crib, cover over the crib, so the cool air doesn't get in, and the place remains relatively warm.
Right. Also, the whole issue of strangulation and the choking and and suffocation and strangulation, they kind of come together. You have children.
Yeah, they are kind of cousins. Got to result in the same kind of outcomes.
Yeah.
So in a case of strangulation, you have something around your neck. So be careful. I saw somebody posted the other day a video with a baby with granted it was those inflated the helium balloons, right? And it caused the child to really just play. And I'm saying, what if he turns over? Because that baby was old enough to roll over.
Mm-hmm.
After a month, a baby will roll over. All right. So he has his phone, he's playing. But what if he falls asleep? What if he turns around? The chances of him strangulating himself are great. They have to also be very careful when children play games with ropes by themselves, because sometimes they can trip and strangle themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So in strangulation, you actually have a cord around your neck that causes that deficit, that absence of oxygen that should get into the lung, and the person can die.
Right. What about things like hanging bags and strings on the baby's crib and things like that?
So those are things that can also cause strangulation of the baby,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it can cause, some children are smart and they used to climb up and get out of the crib and they fall down and break their crown. They can fall and injure themselves severely. So you have to be very cautious.
And there's sometimes the children have the pacifiers, and then you have a little string around the pacifier around the child's neck. That is not a good practice.
So I can correct that from the beginning. Children don't need no pacifier. Pacifier deforms their mouth. Yes, it gives some comfort, but there are other things you can give to give the children comfort. All right? Pacifier to me is a not so hard-working way of keeping a child comfortable. Right? It is, mothers give a baby a passy so he can have something to suck on. Right? And I can understand a baby needs something to suck on, but a pacifier actually also helps to deform it. Today I was looking at those pictures again on my Facebook page, because I posted them last week, of the arch of the child's mouth, changes, puts the child at risk for getting more air infections because of how the air flows in and out. Bothers their hearing, bothers their speech, bothers their capacity to chew properly. So we don't need to give our children pacifiers. Since when you give our children pacifiers? You had pacifier? I didn't even know what a
No,
pacifier
no,
was.
no. In my time, we ain't know about pacifier. Yeah.
No, but the dentists hate the pacifiers because it gives a lot of challenges to the development of the child's tooth and the development of the child's mouth, even sucking finger. But a passy with a string can be a potentially strangulatory element.
Right, lovely. And the last one we're gonna look at, and there's a lot more, but for this program, the last one we're gonna consider poisoning, and that can happen to everyone.
Well, we kind of looked at it already. We should not keep poisonous substances in our houses. That is not. And everything you look, we have farmers, we have rodents, we have all kind of pests around us that we have to get rid of, right? But you should not keep those things in your house. You should have them stored as far away as possible, especially if you have children. But they must also be labeled. You don't put on a bottle with a blue substance, right? And if it's in a beer bottle, an amber colored bottle, you don't want it as a blue substance anyway, right? If you're gonna put it in a container, you must put it in a container that you can see what's in there, the color, and you must also be able to read what it is exactly and write a date, okay? And write a date. And again, as I say, teach your children not to open bottles and have drinks, right? They must not open bottles and have drinks, but it should not be stored in your house, on the kitchen counter and all of that, right? There are other places that are inaccessible to your children, or, sorry, it can't stay in the house. I wanted us to talk quickly about food. You know, we hit in the dry season, and we've seen a lot of gastro recently.
Yes, yes.
And a lot of it results from our own hygiene habits. So there's really two big ways to prevent it. Some of it is waterborne, and some of it is borne by contact, right? We have to boil our water, because sometimes the water that comes in a pipe doesn't look too pretty. They do what they can, but there's so much silt, especially so much sediment, so much thing in the water, especially after the rain has come, right? Sometimes you just can't filter those fine particles. So you have to boil well, bubble boiling big for quite a while, okay? One. You also have to make sure you cook your foods properly and store them properly. So if you're going to store in the fridge, you put the uncooked stuff, the stuff that is raw, goes under, and the hot stuff goes on top. You can't half cook your food. Some food needs to be cooked a little more than others, so you can kill out whatever bacteria. You can't leave food exposed, you know. In the Caribbean, we tend to use a lot of heat anyway, so that should kill whatever bacteria is there. But there's some bacteria and other stuff that are resistant to heat. All right? You need to store your food. Your food must be over 60, 70 degrees or under 5 degrees, right? When you're storing it. You can't just leave it out in the middle of the hot air like that, all right? So mean that it's on the stove or it's in a very cold fridge. If you think your fridge is not working, probably ask them to come. Or safer yet, you cook every meal. It's a little more expensive sometimes to cook for every meal, but sometimes that's what you need to do. But hand washing is probably the most essential part of preventing gastroenteritis. And why this is a home hazard, because you have to remember that these things, this is where you live with a cluster of people. So even if there are 3 of you, you're a group of 3 people living in the same space. If there are 23 of you, you're 23 people living in the same space, sharing the same water, sharing the same bathroom. So children have to know how to wash their hands properly, and all of us should have learned to wash our hands after COVID, right? How to wash their hands properly after coming from the toilet. Flush the toilet and come and wash your hand properly. Singing a happy birthday song twice, proper soap on your hands. But everybody has to practice it. Families have to practice. You can't be the mother and just open the pipe and flash through the water and come out and wipe your hand like you wash your hands. You have to stand up there and say, this is how we do it. Mm-hmm. And you always do it every time. All right? vector-borne diseases. I read an article yesterday that said chickpea, dengue, and Zika are back on the rise. Nobody wants to get chickpea ever again in their life, okay? Those who have had chickpea know exactly where we've been. We still have COVID hanging around, but chickpea, dengue, and Zika all transmitted by the same mosquitoes. And they're around, especially now that we've been harvesting and saving water. Cover your water properly, put a little bleach in it. If you have a big barrel or a little barrel or whatever, that measures how much bleach you can put into a barrel of water. I think in a big barrel, you can put up to a cup of bleach and leave it there for some hours. It's off for everybody who's inside there, right? And keep it properly sealed. Mosquitoes smart because them behave like them is warm and go through all look a space and get into where they want to get in. But make sure that you cover as best as can so we can prevent mosquitoes. One mosquito makes a million other mosquitoes, and all mosquitoes like to sting, like our friend corrected us the other day. So we have to think about that, and that's part of being safe in your home.
Yes, indeed. So we have a few minutes. If there are any calls, the number is 435-2041. That's the number you can call, folks. If you have any question you'd like to ask or any comment you'd like to add to the program, you can do so. The number again, 435-2041. Yes. Just to go back onto the Facebook page. Someone says, Dr. Sonia, the throw rugs, you have to look out. You have to look out for also. They can be very dangerous. The throw rugs. I guess what we call the throws that you have on your.
Yes, the rugs. Yeah.
Right. Someone says here. Very, very funny. That happened to me too when I was preteen. I guess they were talking about using stones to throw at mangoes and things like that.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
But we had an amnesty. When there were rules when we threw mangoes, everybody had to go and collect a bunch of stones. And then everybody threw stones where we all stood away from what we considered the non-dangerous part. Nobody climbed the trees during that time. And then when everybody finished throwing stones, we went and we collected the mangoes and shared.
Right. Right. We have a call on the line. Let's go to the telephone. Doctor on call. Good evening. Hello.
Hello. Is this Godfrey?
Yes, it is. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, good evening to you. I don't think you mentioned the dangers of improper disposal of cigarette ash. That has been known to cause deaths and fires, and also the use of fruits that have been picked by a bird or sometimes a rat might eat upon you cut around the hole and you eat it. Those things are very dangerous because leptospirosis among other diseases. So
yes.
if you can deal with those things, that might be useful.
Yes, indeed, caller. Thank you very much. Thank you a lot.
Yes. Yeah, and thank you, sir. Especially lepto. We do know that we have leptospirosis. Leptospirosis, where the organism actually is transmitted by rats, found in the urine of rats. So that the truth is that not all bird juke is actually bird juke. It might just be that another insect, another animal, which is a vector, an animal that carries a disease, may have gone and bitten the mango or the fruit, spit on it. And especially mangoes are easy to penetrate fruits are easy to penetrate like mangoes and pawpaws and leave the leptospira. You go, you don't wash it, you peel it, you eat it, or you just eat a mango in the garden and you just eat it without washing it. Take it from the tree. You don't think there's anything on it, and next thing in a week or so and a half, you're ill. And so once you start feeling ill and feverish and your eyes getting yellow and stuff, know that you have leptospira. Leptospirosis can actually be cured with proper treatment. There's antibiotics that can actually take care of leptospira, but you have to find yourself at the hospital early. But you're right, sir.
No, it is true. I mean, I remember clearly as, little boys when you go to pick mangoes and so, and I remember, there was something that we used to say. When you go to pick mangoes, if you see it has a bud juke on it, you would say, bud juke mango sweeter. I mean, I remembered clearly, but those things, those practices are not good. I guess when you don't know, you just don't know. But when you know, it is important to pass on information.
Further to that, we buy foods from stores and supermarkets that have been stored for a long time, and often those storerooms have rats and mice that also urinate on the cans and stuff that you think. So make sure that before you open a can of whatever you're going to use in your house, make sure that you wash it out under the pipe, wash it in water, right? So that if there's any leptospira on it, that you can. So I'm glad. You spoke about something else. What did you speak about before, lepto?
He did speak about cigarette butts, the danger of cigarette butts. Yes, that's very
important. Causing fires. A lot of our mountain fires, which often are dangerous to homes, and the hill fires where the truck can't reach, the fire truck can't reach, kill off our crops, kill off a lot of stuff, kill off our livestock, kill off our livestock. If your crops and livestock are damaged or obliterated, killed off, then your food on your table is going to be less. That's going to affect us in our families.
Yes.
First of all, we're not supposed to be smoking. But if people choose to smoke al fresco, please make sure, don't just throw it, especially know that it's dry. And this is a really dry season. The water is scarce. We need water to drink and bathe and cook. We shouldn't be using it to try and out fires set up by careless persons. So please remember that, let's be responsible. And if you're going to smoke up in the bush or even in your yard, make sure that you out your cigarette butts properly.
Yes.
And of course, do not throw your cigarettes into the ocean. Don't let them get into the ocean, because they also damage the fish, kill off the fish, which we need to get for food.
Right. Well, Doc, that's all the time we have on the program this evening. We thank you so very much for sharing all this wonderful information, folks. These are, little tips that you can take along with you. They are very important. Maybe on the surface, it may not appear that way, but until it actually hits home, then we realize how serious and how important these pointers can be, So it might be a good thing to avoid these things so that you don't find yourself in any problems. We are in the dry season, Doc said it, so we have to be very, very, very careful. So, Doc, that's all the time we have. Your final words, a minute.
So I want to remind everybody that we've been saying from the year start. When you listen to this program, take one thing, two things, three things. There are lots of things that can be easily applied into our homes. I want to send out special greetings to all those seniors who meet me on the road and drape me up. Dr. Nixon, I listen to you. And I want to say hello to everybody. I really feel that I'm fulfilling my mission when people say they listen, and they have to listen because they learn. Share the message. This is just about all us Grenadians coming together and becoming empowered, having the power to run our lives, to stay well, and to have better lives on earth. So share the message, because all of us need to get well, and there'll be less pressure on the health system, because we know what we must do. We know how to stay well.
Yes, indeed. So thank you very much.
Great week, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much again, everyone. Our friends on our Facebook page were always with us. We thank you so much for joining us. Our friends in New York, in Canada, and all over, we thank you very much for staying with us. And of course, our listeners right here in Grenada on our GBN TV and on K105. Thank you so very much. Just to remind you that tomorrow evening on Our Climate Reality, we will be looking at the reports from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, these are the reports that organizations like the World Bank and so use to, organize their strategic funding and development. So it's very important that we pay attention and we understand these things. Climate change is real and it is happening. So join us tomorrow at 8:30. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And before you go, let's remember to congratulate our character team for doing so very well. Coming home with 10 medals, or young people going to show that we can be great. And so we're going to be great at everything good that we do. Congrats. And next year's character here, so we'll all be there. hale and hearty to participate and to support our team.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Congratulations to the young men and women who did so very well. We congratulate you. So thanks again, folks. All the best. Do have a good night, and I'll be back with you tomorrow from 6. Do take care. All the best.